On today's episode, we're doing something a bit different. We'll be talking with members of our team about some of their best financial decisions and how they ultimately led to the doors of Foster Motley. We'll hear stories that include strategic career changes, educational investments, and personal choices that shaped their professional destinies. Our first story comes from Elizabeth Green, who shares an early memory about saving that helped her develop the financial discipline she used later in life.
One of the best financial choices I've made involves a combination of excellent parenting, disciplined saving, and a dash of good luck. I grew up in a family in which saving and investing and living within one's means was taught early and often. At a young age, my parents encouraged us to open a savings account at our local bank. They were called Christmas Club accounts. The bank offered these types of accounts to kids, encouraging them to save throughout the year in order to have money set aside for Christmas shopping. A portion of my birthday, babysitting money, as well as my allowance, was to be deposited into this account. Dad would drive us downtown to the main branch so that we could make our deposits. Then at Christmas time, we would withdraw our savings, and Mom would take us to the five and dime stores so that we could buy gifts with our money. Kind of the five and dime is the equivalent of Walmart, I suppose, today. This early developed skill of disciplined saving benefited my husband and I as we were able to purchase our initial home within the first 2 years we were married. After 9 years, we built up enough equity such that we could buy a nicer house in a little cul-de-sac on the north side of town. The families in this neighborhood were wonderful, and we've made a lot of great friends. One of those families had 3 sons. The oldest son, Brian, who was in high school at the time, was dating and later married Rachel Rasmussen. When Brian and Rachel moved back to Cincinnati after a few years at college and their initial jobs, she reached out to inquire about financial service job opportunities in our community. The rest, they say, is history. Recognizing her experience and talents in finance, we asked Rachel to join our firm in 2014 and invited her to become a shareholder in the business in 2019. She has been a valued member of the shareholder team, joining a great group of people here that have made this firm so successful. One never knows where our journeys will take us, but developing the skill of disciplined saving at an early age has not only been beneficial personally, but also professionally.
Elizabeth's story is the perfect example of how childhood lessons can ripple through decades to influence both personal wealth and career opportunities. But what happens when you're already established in your career and face an unexpected change? David Nienaber explains how taking a calculated risk in an uncertain time guided his professional journey.
As I think about the best financial decision my wife Maureen and I have made, I think it's kind of ironic. It actually involves making less money and doing so intentionally. At the time, this is back when we were in our late 20s, it seemed risky and it felt like there was a lot of uncertainty. But in time, I think Maureen and I would both agree together that it was the best decision that we've made. I made the decision to join Foster Motley when they weren't interested in hiring anyone. So I didn't have much leverage to do that, but I knew it was the place to be. And in time, we were able to use our careers, and Maureen was able to stay home with our family. And both of those things took a step back, certainly financially. But I think they were focused on the right priorities for each other and our family. I think in time proved to be our best decision. So if I just go back to that time, like I said, we were in our late 20s. We were old enough to have some idea of what we wanted to do when we grew up, but we were still early in our careers. Our oldest daughter, Ella, was a toddler at the time, and we had hoped to be blessed with more children in the future. I was on family vacation, really happy with my job at Deloitte Investment Advisors when I got a call to be in Chicago in 48 hours. As you can imagine, I had no clothes for this, and it was quite a scurry away from family vacation to attend this meeting. Given the time frame, I knew something was up, and it would actually be a fortuitous development in my career. We were meeting in Chicago to learn that our group was being sold. And so that meant a lot of change for everyone. We were there in Chicago when we learned of the sale and what it meant for everyone. It was a pretty transparent announcement. Basically, all of us had to negotiate for our position at the acquiring company. And as I look back on it, it didn't seem nearly as scary as what I think of it today. If something happened like that, it just kind of seemed like a bump in the road. I was a relatively junior associate at that time. And as the days went on, it occurred to me that the announcement and the sale was actually a blessing. I could consider a job with the acquiring company, but I could also network around Cincinnati as a free agent, so to speak. I was very thankful for a networking assist from a friend and former partner at Deloitte that got me into the firms that I wanted to meet in Cincinnati. On the list of firms to talk to on my friends list was Foster Motley, and I had never heard of Foster Motley before. But over time, I was able to get my foot in the door, and fast forward a month or so, and of all the firms I met with, it really became clear to me that the Foster Motley culture is the place I wanted to be. There was one important hurdle, though, and that is the Foster Motley team saw my interviews as simply networking. And fresh off the financial crisis of 2009, they weren't looking to hire. So, in the classic case of supply and demand, there wasn't a perfect fit there. There were firms that I had an opportunity to join, but the culture just wasn't the same. The Foster Motley team is where I wanted to be, even if they didn't have a demand for my services at the time. So that's when Maureen and I talked about taking a financial risk. What if I went to Foster Motley and was clear to them to just give me a desk and let's see how things work out? And in time, they were open to that. And I knew it was the place that, I wanted to be after meeting with Dave Foster and Paul Staubach and the Foster Motley team. I was really confident in taking that risk and not knowing what my next paycheck was going to be. I knew they would be fair to me, but it certainly wasn't the type of money that other firms that had a need for a financial planner were offering. As I look back on it, I'm kind of terrified to think about making this decision when Maureen and I were getting accustomed to having a mortgage and paying daycare bills, and a lean budget, like most folks in their late 20s, became even tighter. But thankfully, the whole decision kind of lined up with Maureen's career in grocery brokerage sales taking off, and that really gave our family a cushion to breathe a bit financially. Fast forward from that decision in 2010, and Foster Motley has always been more than fair to me. I've had the opportunity to work with great clients, enjoy the client-centered culture, and over time, the money part of the equation has taken care of itself. Around the time Maureen was pregnant with our fifth child, we were tired of paying for childcare. We were searching for a new nanny, and we just came to a crossroads in our life where it became time for my career to give Maureen a chance to take a risk, and that was to step away from her career and the travel that it entailed and focused her time on our family. So, as a financial planner, I've been able to develop a unique perspective on money, and influenced by clients and the families that I get to work with. My favorite part of being a financial planner is helping folks multiply the good in their life. And for Maureen and me, the good in our lives was multiplied with the Foster Motley culture, being able to work on technical tech stuff one day and being able to communicate with a family and bring families together on a different day has been a real blessing. For Maureen and for our family, the time has been the biggest blessing. So it's not lost on me that the best financial decision we make is one that we have made is one where we intentionally chose to make less money for a period of time. And we feel very blessed to look back on these key decisions and know that we wouldn't change a thing.
David's willingness to take less money to join the right culture shows us that the best financial decisions aren't always about maximizing your income today, but instead about considering tomorrow. Now let's hear from Thomas Guidi, who also viewed a very personal choice as his best financial decision.
So a big part of financial planning involves defining goals. Often, once a client has enough resources to meet their own needs, they look to how they can benefit their family. So when I took a look at my own family, I think it began when I married my wife, Beth. We met in college and married shortly after we each graduated. So being married has practical benefits. There's an economy of scale. So out of college, we're each working. We had enough income that we could qualify to buy a small home instead of renting. There are a lot of other benefits that married couples take for granted. They can file their taxes jointly. They have a higher standard deduction when they do file their taxes, or rely on spousal coverage for health insurance. Beyond that, it's almost the same effort to make dinner for one person it is for two, and for us, eventually 4 people. We waited to our 30s to have kids. When my 2 boys required more care than Beth and I were able to provide, each working, Beth was able to reduce her hours while I was able to focus on my career. There's some softer benefits to being married too. I think we each complement each other. Beth is more of a day-to-day practical thinker, while I focus on the bigger picture and can be a bit of a dreamer. Having a partner in life and forming a family was the best financial decision that I ever made.
Just like Tom made a wise investment with his decision, Zach Horn chose to do the same. Zach explains how his family's educational values pushed him to pursue an advanced degree and financial certifications that helped him expand his role at Foster Motley.
So I decided to pursue an MBA in finance at Xavier University. This was a big investment in myself, for my career, for professional advancement, and just to better myself personally and professionally. And it was a heck of an investment. It really was worth the time, the cost, the effort. And at the time, it was a significant financial investment and time-wise as well. And I had big goals, but I knew that I needed more skills and direction to achieve them. I had an undergrad degree in business, a finance specialization from Ohio University, and I joined Foster Motley as a trader. And I was several years into my career, and I wanted to advance and make sure that the skill set I had was going to advance my career over time. And I just had an appreciation for higher education. Both of my parents had advanced degrees. I knew of several colleagues that had their master's degrees. And my younger brother was actually deciding to pursue his MBA at the University of Dayton at the same time. So these were all motivating influences for me to make the investment in myself and go pursue a degree, a master's in business administration from Xavier. So I ended up taking night classes at Xavier, and I actually paired the pursuit of an MBA with classes towards a certified financial planner designation. So I kept myself quite busy. I was essentially working during the day and then pretty much every single evening going to Xavier University, either to take courses towards the MBA or to take courses for the certified financial planners designation. So after about 1.5 years of night classes and putting in the time and the effort, I graduated with honors and achieved my CFP certification. So the MBA and the CFP all around the same time, which was very rewarding. Obviously a bit of a relief to kind of get some of my life back from a lot of studying and classes. And it paid off. I went on to become an investment manager at Foster Motley, working with clients to invest and grow their wealth and help them achieve their financial goals. And, that really was the career that I was after, was, being able to do that client-facing work, being an advisor. And I also was fortunate enough to become a partner of Foster Motley, and had a stint where I led the investment management team and eventually became managing partner. And a lot of the skills that I learned through that MBA program have translated into the work that I've done throughout my career at Foster Motley. So, I credit a lot of my success to that decision to make an investment in myself. And I now have the fortune to help run a successful business with great partners. And, we lead a talented group of 50 employees.
Tom and Zach prioritize their education as tools to grow professionally, but sometimes taking the next career step requires even more dedication and sacrifice. Rachel Rasmussen's pursuit of one of finance's most challenging designations opened doors she never expected, especially as a woman in a male-dominated field.
The best financial decision I have ever made. That's a tough question, but if I think about the best financial decision I've ever made career-wise, it was to pursue the CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst designation. So it came about years ago. I was living in New York and attending Seton Hall University. I was pursuing an MBA in finance, trying to change careers. Initially, I went for undergrad in international development. So I was trying to get into finance. I was learning a lot at Seton Hall. And I was also having to work several part-time jobs to put myself through school. So I was working several jobs, including a research assistant position at Seton Hall. And during that role, I met a professor there, Eleanor Zhu, and she was awesome. She knew a lot about fixed income and finance, and I just thought her research was fascinating. So through that work, she told me about this program, this designation that would help set you apart from other candidates and provide you with more career opportunities. And of course, there weren't too many women going for it at the time. We were definitely much in the minority. So of course, it was very expensive to pursue that designation. So she let me know that there was a scholarship program, and she would like to recommend me for that scholarship to take the first level, because there was 3 levels to this test. So she recommended me. I applied for the scholarship. I studied. Oh my gosh, I can't even count how many hours. Probably for the whole program, it was 400 hours of studying. So the day came to take the test. I'm taking it in New York. There are 1,000 other people there from all over the world. And we're taking it in this giant warehouse. And you can imagine it's all day. Super nerve-wracking. But I got through it, found out 8 weeks later, I think, that I passed. The pass rate for the first test was, I think, a 30% pass rate. So I passed the test, and I just kept going for it. After Seton Hall, I moved to Cincinnati and met Beth Green again, who I'd known for a long time. She works at Foster Motley, and she encouraged me to continue pursuing the designation. So at that time, I think I was taking level 2. She was a huge financial support through Foster Motley, supporting the test materials and all the studying materials, and the company just really helped me get through it. So anyways, of course, if you're studying 400 hours worth of test time, it takes away from your family. So I had a lot of family support at the time to help me get through it and prepare. And I passed. I passed all 3 on the first time. I think the chances of that was maybe 10%. And it led to all sorts of opportunities here at Foster Motley to work with great clients and eventually become a shareholder and an owner in the business. And of course, work in investment management, which is just a dream.
Rachel's investment in herself reminds us of the importance of persistence when taking advantage of new opportunities. But what about those moments when you realize you're in the wrong place entirely? Our final story comes from Zach Binzer, who made the brave decision to change direction and invest in a new path forward.
A risk that paid off for me was the decision to switch careers. I was a young man, recently married, navigating life and what happens next, and thinking about my long-term career, but also starting a family and all that goes into that. And in the role I was in at that time, I had a lot of upside potential, but I was just not receiving the non-financial rewards from the work that I was looking for, the fulfillment and the sense of pride in my day-to-day. So I happened to work with my father at that time, and I just went to him and said, hey, we thought about this being an opportunity for me to be your succession plan. We've given this 5 to 6 years. I just don't feel like it's my long-term solution. And thankfully, he was very supportive, and just his immediate response was, how can I help? And that took a huge amount of pressure off my shoulders. And so we started exploring who in our friends and family and networks might be resources that I could speak to make an eyes wide open decision about what the next chapter might be. And one of those people was Paul Staubach, who was managing partner of Foster Motley at the time. He knew my dad from college, and he was very willing to sit down with me, hear about my past, in public accounting, preparing tax returns, and then at that time currently selling insurance and working on a team, brokering employee benefits for clients. And Paul listened first, and then he also asked probing questions and ultimately shared his experience serving his clients every day, working in the culture and the environment that Foster Motley is so proud of. And he didn't really have to sell me on it. He just had to reveal it to me, and it sold itself. And so I began exploring what a career change to financial planning and wealth management might look like. What were the steps? What was the education required? It built nicely off my history in public accounting and tax. It built nicely on my history in health insurance and employee benefits. It built nicely off my personal passion for investing. And ultimately, it had some work to enter, but not needing to go back and get another 4-year degree or anything like that. And so I started researching what it took to become a certified financial planner and ultimately engaged in that process. From that point, Paul shared that the firm he worked for was not currently hiring, but there might be opportunity in the future. He even advocated for me to interview with other competing firms. Ultimately, the timing and patience won out, and an opportunity presented itself at Foster Motley, and I pounced. Thankfully, they saw in me what Paul saw in me and gave me the opportunity to enter as an associate planner, finish getting my certified financial planner designation, learn the ropes, act as that apprentice role to lead advisors and learn how they serve clients. And ever since I joined the firm, I've never looked back. I've found those non-financial rewards I was looking for. I've found that sense of pride in serving our clients, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity. Does it carry with it financial benefits as well? For sure. But coming to work every day, getting out of bed, going, serving clients, helping them with their lives, their financial lives, working with my colleagues and coworkers, I'm forever grateful for the opportunity that Paul helped me realize, that my friends and family, my wife and my parents supported me in taking the risk of changing my career at a pivotal time in our lives. And I look forward to all the opportunity that the future holds and seeing where Foster Motley takes me from here.
Everyone who shared today invested in themselves and made financial choices that ultimately led them to Foster and Motley, both because of their financial knowledge and because they prioritized long-term thinking over short-term goals. These experiences remind us that the best financial decisions aren't always about money. They're often about investing in relationships, education, and opportunities that align with your values. Thanks for being with us. And remember, your next financial decision might be the one that leads you somewhere you never expected.